Hello, everyone. Welcome to Office Hours. Every day we assemble here to talk about media and tech-related production questions, answer your questions, and that's what we're about to dive into. Alexander Knight in Port Coquitlam, British Columbia is our reader today. Alexander, what's our first question?
First question this morning is coming in from Zach Stallsmith in Chautauqua, New York. In a regular Zoom meeting, I can move around the individual participants to put them in different spots in meeting layouts. What is the difference between this and Zoom tiles?
Ronnie Hossoy is going to help you out. Understand this, Ronnie?
Yeah, so Tiles is a much more advanced application to create these gallery views, and just take a look at the visuals of it. It's much more beautified. It's get rid of all the framing and all the toolbars, etc. That is a part of the gallery view in the vanilla Zoom client. In addition, you can have a lot of more people, so you can automatically change them out every 3 or 7 seconds, whatever you would like to do. So if you have a couple of hundred people in the meeting with cameras on, you can have Tiles automatically do an update every second or so, and have everything coming together that way. And of course, you can also have the reactions flowing into this, and you can have the different type of layouts. So you can change the colors, you can have framing around, you can have rounded corners, etc. So a lot of configurable parameters that you can use to design the whole experience. So it's much more powerful and is meant to be displayed, of course, on big screens or even returned back into the Zoom meeting. But remember to remove the audio before you do that.
Sounds like the voice of experience giving you some suggestions here. Thanks, Zach, for the question. Let's go to our next question.
This one's from Mike Edwards in Brooklyn, New York. Morning, everyone. Thoughts on the Disc Pro multi-port PSSD?
I would imagine that some of our crack panelists have been looking at this. Courtney Gooden is one of them. Take a look and tell us what you think, Courtney.
Well, I haven't taken a crack at it yet. What this is a multi-port hub that sticks on the back of your phone. This is a Kickstarter campaign, and it has some cooling in it. I'm not sure exactly. There you can kind of see it. I chose a bad video to show it to you, but plugs in via USB-C and has active cooling in it. I imagine that would help keep your phone cool if you're using it for live streaming or for recording to that SSD. We'll see if they release it, if it comes out on Kickstarter. Interesting idea, but I would think it's going to be using up a lot of current just to run the cooling. And that active cooling, how much of your precious phone battery are you giving up to the cooling, and how much do you need it?
Let's go to Jeffrey Powers. Jeffrey?
So the company actually they're calling it their 14th campaign, and they've done a whole bunch of different SSDs and other items for the iPhone. The Disc Pro is similar to that. I wouldn't use it. I would use it for storage. I would use it after the fact. And of course, it's got like HDMI on it, so you can plug it into a monitor so you can watch movies or whatever. A couple of USB ports to it, but I wouldn't be using it actively because I don't know. I don't know if it's going to do a real-time record or anything like that. I would plug it in after the fact and copy the files from the iPhone over, or the iPad or the computer, because that's what they're touting. It can plug into anything and then come back. But then I'd use it after the fact to do all the collection rather than use it in real time. But it looks like a pretty decent device, and it's fairly small, and I love items that are small because when you travel, you always have to worry about weight.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. I mean, Kickstarter is a whole interesting thing in my thing. Not having to have a lot of capital ahead of time and allowing things to be crowdfunded seems like you'd get a lot of interesting new products, and people have ideas to test them out to see if they're good. The downside to it, of course, is that if the product, if you dive into the Kickstarter and you get the product, but then it doesn't kind of catch fire in the marketplace, you end up with another thing on your shelf that doesn't have really a lot of support after the fact. So but if you're a risk taker, maybe you'll find something that really helps you get your job done. Let's look at the next question.
This one is coming in from Harold Williams in Portsmouth. Kudos to Alexander Knight and the MimoLive workshop. I plan to add a backup switcher to our workflow, and I think MimoLive will do fine. Does it have any issues with Decklink? I'm not very interested in NDI.
Ronnie Hossoy is going to start us off, but then I'm probably going to toss the ball a little bit to Alexander to hear about what he's been doing over there. So, Ronnie, start us off.
Yeah, so we've been doing that for ages. In the start, there was some glitches, but I think that was mostly due to incompatibility from Blackmagic themselves, nothing to do with MimoLive. The last time I tested it was on the previous version of Mimo, and both inputs and outputs are flowing fine. I would say one thing that it could be good to have all the sources being the same frame rate and maybe also resolution to avoid any Blackmagic glitches here. And of course, make sure that you have the Decklink in a powerful external enclosure if you're going that route, and also make sure you have a fast enough Thunderbolt cable coming into your machine. So I think if you do those steps, I think you will have a good experience.
Alexander, the MimoLive workshops, can you tell us a little bit about what's going on for somebody who doesn't maybe know that we do these kinds of things outside of the regular show?
Yeah, so over the course of the last couple of months, we've been doing these workshops where we've been working on building a template for office hours, well, not for office hours, for extra hours. So the goal was to see how can we closely reproduce the look and feel of the show, but use a different solution for cutting it. And so we've kind of finally put the finishing touches on that. So there was a lot of automation and scripting involved. And for those that haven't used MimoLive, maybe you don't know, but there's a lot of automation that can be done via scripting. And so one of the things that I wanted to do was I was hoping that we could figure out a way to automatically take a Zoom participant's name and automatically populate that on a lower third, because when you're the TD of a show, you have a rotating list of panelists that come in on the show. It's just one more thing that you have to do where you have to start putting in people's names and titles and all that sort of stuff. So we got all of that working, and it's awesome. And thanks to some of the work that Ronnie Hofsoy did and Peter Belbin did, they were able to come up with a way to even get the data from Rakana directly into MimoLive via the API. So now when people post questions, it actually pushes those questions into MimoLive through the MimoLive API, and we're able to custom design the look and feel of the lower thirds and make it completely bespoke. So that's basically what we've been doing. And to answer specifically to the question, to build on what Ronnie said with the Decklink cards, I don't personally use a Decklink card, but I know that they work inside of MimoLive, and any issues that you may have are probably Blackmagic driver related and have nothing to do with MimoLive.
Well, there you go. Hopefully that helped you explore. I mean, that's part of what we're here for. Office Hours exists as a place to explore technology and figure out what might work for you to help make your life easier or your work easier or both. Next question.
This question is from the QR code. Bob in Canada is asking, what is a sturdy laptop stand to vertically stack two 16-inch laptops on top of each other on a table to create more space? Thank you so much for all of your daily videos. You are all greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you, Bob. Thank you for saying that. Jeffrey Powers is going to start us off here. Jeffrey?
So there's many different ways that you can do that. What I would highly recommend is these basically clip-on stands onto the desktop. They're pneumatic, so you can move them around however you want to, because it sounds like you're going to want to have a laptop here and a laptop here. And so this will give you the adjustments that you're looking for. I don't see anything that gives you two laptop options. They're all singles, and then you get them. Then you buy both of them, and then you can use them in tandem. There's a couple that have a pneumatic stand and then monitor mounts. So if you decide to put in an external monitor into your laptops, then you have more screen space. So you would have to buy them separate. But I would guess that because not too many people use two laptops at the same time, or they put one laptop on the desktop and then one laptop on one of these pneumatic arms. But they're great. They hold the laptops really well, especially if the laptop's like a MacBook Air. No problems right there. But even like a heavier laptop, I have a ZBook that I would put on those pneumatic arms, and they work perfect.
Courtney Gooden.
Yeah, I just kind of blanch at the idea of mounting two laptops vertically, one in front of the other, because with a laptop, you have a screen that's attached. So if you raise one up, and most of the laptop stands, and this one here was rated as one of the best ones by Wired magazine for a laptop stand. And most of these are designed to get your laptop up off the table so that your eye line in meetings is better if you've got a camera that's built into your screen. And the laptop goes on the base here, and you can raise it up and down. But the problem is when you put two of them vertically, one in front of the other, the screen on the one in front kind of blocks the keyboard. Either that or you got to have a pretty good distance. You got to raise the back laptop up considerably to get it out of the way of the screen from the bottom laptop. So I think a better solution would be to get one of those laptop or get two of them and put them side by side so you free up your desk space, but you still have access to both laptops. The screens are on the same height. You can look from one to the other. Vertically arranging laptops is kind of problematic in my opinion.
Alexander Knight.
Yeah, so I ended up now I don't have two laptops in this kind of configuration, but you can absolutely do it with something like this. Vivo, V-I-V-O, makes this product. It's like this monitor arm thing. It's kind of like a VESA mount thing attachment. Normally you can put computer monitors on it. But it has a desk clamp and then this post that sticks up here. Now, the cool thing about that is that you can also buy additional arms. So they also make these little accessories here. So you can actually just buy an additional one of those and then attach it. Now, they do have one with a taller post. So if you need extra space, you can get one with a taller post. But you can totally put two on top of each other, and I've got one of those here, and it seems to work pretty well for me.
Yeah, the other thing you might want to look into, the one time I've seen this kind of configuration is DJs and VJs often have multiple stacked laptops. I've seen that a little bit. So you might want to look into some of I do a search on DJ multi-laptop stand or something like that and see what comes up in the things. There may be some people who do EDM concerts and things like that who have solid racks for that if they're traveling. Just a suggestion. Next question.
Next question is coming in from Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas. What is the potential for your media production business of Maxon One, the company's unified creative ecosystem that includes Cinema 4D, ZBrush, Redshift, Red Giant, and Maxon Studio?
Courtney Gooden's going to help us out here. Courtney?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I would just buy into these big packages these days, because the way AI is moving in the motion graphics area and in the graphics creation and 3D graphics creation, it's moving so fast. When we looked at the new releases from Veo 3, Veo 2, and Sora 2, Veo 3. Those two AI video generation products that do lip sync and realistic looking humans and just about anything you can conceive of without all the work that goes into the typical graphics packages like Red Giant, Redshift, ZBrush, 3D modelers, where you got to create your 3D model, then you got to texture it and skin it, and then you got to light it, and you got to position it, and then you got to program in the paths on it, and you got to deal with the physics package and the conventional way of creating 3D motion graphics may be going away pretty soon. So I don't know if I'd buy into a year-long license on a bundle like this. Although all of these products were solid products in their day, I'm not sure what the future looks like for them.
Jeffrey Powers?
Yeah, I remember using Maxon One. I think it was when they bought out, what was it, Red Giant, and they incorporated it into their system. It's a pretty decent package. I kind of disagree a little bit with Courtney, because I know that there's a lot of concern about using AI over regular standards, and there there's still a very good use on having something like this, because it's an all-in-one. You don't have to worry about, oh, I need to get this extra module. I have to go find where I can do this or this. And but it's going to be really dependent on what you need it for, and if Maxon One is going to give all those features that you're looking for when you're building out your production.
Next question.
Question is coming in from Tony Mobley in Noonan, Georgia. BMD camera app controller on my iPad is no longer seeing iPhone. I have shot both devices, restarted the app, both devices. Any suggestions?
This seems like it's one of those circumstances. Oh, Guy Cochran, I was going to just say I've had circumstances where as my system evolves, as I add additional things, sometimes I lose the capacity to talk to a device or something like that isn't keeping up with the newest changes on the OS. But that's just generic. Guy Cochran's going to try to help you out here.
Yeah, make sure they're both updated to the latest build, and then make sure that Bluetooth is on. I'm pretty sure it's Bluetooth that they talk to each other. If not, it's probably Wi-Fi would be the next one, and you can double check that you're on the same Wi-Fi network. Third thing would be in the settings. There's actually a little thing that says iPhone. You can make one or the other the controller. So make sure that the other device that you're not using as the camera is set up as the controller. So between those three things, you'll get it working.
Alexander Knight?
Yeah, I ran into this when I was troubleshooting something with Lois Richter on After Hours, and it turned out to be, well, the first place you should check is it's using your local network. So first thing is on these iOS devices, make sure you go into the Settings app, go into the privacy settings area, and then just make sure that you have, when you go to the network section, make sure that the Blackmagic app has full access to the network. In this one case with Lois's device, the network access was denied, so there would be no way to discover it. That's usually what it is, so I would double check that, and that should get it working. Another thing is to just make sure both devices have unique names in the Blackmagic camera settings app. There is a way to give it a name, and it defaults to camera A, so I would just make sure the other device has a unique name as well, just so it's just easier to identify on the network.
And Jeffrey Powers.
Yeah, the remote camera control is what needs to be set, but I would also take a look at the physical and look at how the cable's inserting, and maybe take a toothpick to the USB-C port, make sure you don't have any gunk inside of there that's causing any type of connection issues, because the littlest of connection issues will stop the system from working.
I am delighted. Our next question throws a demo, Cochran. Dive in. Next question.
This one's from Guy Cochran, Seattle, Washington. Stream Deck Network Dock has arrived. Want to see it?
Oh, yes, we do, Guy. Dive in.
This is for the geeks out there that enjoy this kind of thing. We saw this at IBC, and I'm very interested in these because sometimes we have to hook up 4 to 1 device, and it takes up a lot of USB ports and power on that USB bus. It's always been solid, but one of those things, it's just nice to have something that you plug it in and you just fire it up and you know it's going to work every time. So here's what it looks like plugged in. Sorry, my finger got broke too, but it's just USB-C. Yeah, this is it, powered by PoE. Now, when it's in its case, this is all nice and bundled up and everything. But you can see here, let's go to merge. All right, so you can see here in Companion that it'll show up on the network. If you've got it on the same subnet, it will appear as Elgato Stream Deck Network Dock, and you can have local machines as well. So as you push these buttons now on your Stream Deck, even though this machine that I'm talking to is down the hall, I'm plugged into my local network, and I'm able to hand off, switching to somebody who's not, they can be here locally or around the world, because you could VPN in, and it's a pretty cool device to let people control whatever you want to control, start and stop streams, if you want to control vMix, if you want to control lighting, if you want to control whatever Companion can control, you could hook up as many, as far as I know, as many of these as you want. I don't think that there's a limit. But it is PoE powered, which is sweet, because now your Stream Deck doesn't need to be, again, plugged in USB local. You don't have to worry about that fragile connector. Ethernet's just more robust out in the field. It just depends on how you're setting and deploying and whatnot. But I'm impressed so far. It's a joy. I try to think of even more uses to use it because it blows my mind that we have this kind of control now.
Ronnie Hossoy wants to weigh in here. Ronnie?
Yeah, just wanted to ask you, Guy, if you have tested it enough to seen if there are any latency differences because the USB version is cabled directly. So I guess it's nothing. But and I have a second one. Do you have only one? And is the reason that you are planning to use that for the free license of BitFocus buttons?
Well, good question. So on the first one, I think it's a more robust connector as far as USB being fragile, hooking up multiples. Like we deploy 4 for our TD. He has 4. So I watch him always plugging these things in, and I'm always nervous. Like, man, that's what the whole show's relying on is that dock. Like, and it's not even a good dock; it's like a cheap dock, and so it just makes me nervous. Whereas this feels way more professional. Like it just feels very solid once because the USB jumper that's behind there. Once it's taped down, it's not going anywhere. So the only thing is the Ethernet connector, and that's not going to get. It would take a lot to break one of those. I did buy it just for testing to see what kind of uses I could figure out with buttons. And that's the first place I went was BitFocus buttons. And it immediately popped up on the network. And I started playing with it a little bit. But now just for mix effect and then the ATEM is probably where I see it being used the most just because there's so much power there with mix effect and super sources and flying them around and being able to swap out those boxes quickly.
I'm not surprised, but in the live show chat, there's a lot of interest in this. David Brady wonders, asked Guy there, does it replace satellite? Can you lock down pages to specific devices? Have you delved that far into it?
Lock down pages. Well, yeah, you would just not give them a way out. Yeah, so you would just say, here's a page where you can't go up or down or back or forward. In buttons, you can lock people out even more by having a pin. So you can force a pin number so that people can't get into it if you don't want them to touch it at all.
And Chuck Swan wondered, can it work on 48-volt power over Ethernet or only 24?
I think it just takes the PoE, the base. This switch right here is a PoE plus. I don't know. I'd have to look in my Ubiquiti Dream Machine.
Oh, Mickey popped in with just standard PoE 802.3 AF, so you can look up the standard, and that's what it is looking for, I guess. Anyway, thank you, Guy, for tossing the question to yourself as these new tools come in. It's really great to be able to talk about them live and get additional information. That's part of what, that's part of what makes office hours special is where else can you go and find a live group with this kind of expertise able to deconstruct something that's brand new, not just theoretically from what's on the spec sheet, but who's actually used it and understands it. So thank you, Guy. Let's go to the next question.
From the QR code, Paul Blatt in London. I'm looking for a case smaller than a Peli 1510 to safely transport AV tools, converters, monitors, sonnex to venues. What does the panel recommend?
Courtney Gooden's going to help us out here.
Well, the 1500, I use those for our teleprompter systems because it's big enough. It's 16 by 11 by 6, I think. It doesn't, the 1510 has the built-in wheels and the rollers, and it's designed to fit in the overhead compartment of an airplane. But the 1500, and you can go smaller, the 1400, depends on the size of that monitor you want to put in there. I've put portable monitors in the 1500 and it works well. It just doesn't have the wheels on it. You carry it like a suitcase via the handle. So you might look into that. It's a little bit smaller, a little bit lighter because it doesn't have the wheels built into it and the pop-up handle. That adds a lot of weight and it adds a lot of height to the case itself. So look at the plain 1500 if you don't need the wheel.
Jeffrey Powers.
So you can also look at Gator and SKB because they have cases that are similar. I have a DJ Rack case that works really well, but they have some of the cases that don't have wheels to it, so you will have to carry it throughout the airport or whatever, but you'll be able to do that. And then, of course, you can also go to Harbor Freight and check out some of their cases. They're not rated for TSA, but if you're looking for something on the cheap, then these might, and especially if you're going to be customizing the case, these might be a good alternative.
Just wanted to make the note that there is no rundown show tonight. For those of you who are getting used to the fact that on Thursday night, David Paskin does the rundown on our network. David is otherwise engaged. It's a holiday for him, so he's taking the day off. So no rundown tonight. Next question.
Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas. Why is Hollywood in an uproar over the AI-generated actress Tilly Norwood, creation of Eline Van der Velden, founder of Particle 6, a United Kingdom-based AI production studio?
Well, this is going to be an interesting discussion. Courtney Gooden, what do you think?
Well, we were just in a strike with SAG-AFTRA and ITSE over AI. And almost all of the provisions and the discussions that went on had to do with the rights management of likenesses of existing actors. In other words, you can't use an AI version of me in your production without my permission and without paying me, et cetera, et cetera. And all the language that's now built into the contracts about AI is concerning use of your likeness in either training or for doing ADR, for doing, your voice for doing ADR, your likeness for doing stunts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. What they didn't take into account is creating whole new actors that aren't likenesses of anybody we know and replacing famous actors with a new famous actor whose fame is generated artificially. So this is the Tilly Norwood character. They created an actress with AI, and they've got her, to be able to kind of act because almost all the video generators now are moving to a model that can deliver dialogue, synchronized dialogue, and they're looking pretty good. And you can have your actor or actress take on any appearance that you want, and you can change their nose or change their eyes, make your eyes closer together, et cetera, so that you can really mold your actress to your desires. And that's why Hollywood is getting a little nervous. Existing celebrities are worried about being displaced by artificial celebrities. So that's, we're moving in that direction. And the quality of the stuff that can be produced is getting better and better. And I think the only reason that's holding them back now is the cost of the processing versus and the fear of the guardrails, of it being used for evil. So there's a lot of guardrails and a lot of terms of service that are involved in all these video creation tools. But if they took off all the guardrails, or some company just didn't put guardrails in, didn't implement the guardrails, and had a very good legal department, they could create actors that could compete perhaps in a year or two, couple of years maybe, with any of our existing, especially for commercial production. Commercial actors and actresses, there's a lot of people who make a good living off of acting in television commercials, and they're not celebrities, So those kind of actors are the first ones that need to be worried because they're the easiest to replace using AI.
And yesterday on the show, Alex brought up the new Sora invention, and Justine Azaric, who's iJustine on the web, has this amazing video out there about the fact that with just a couple of seconds of her being digitized into that, she was able to create a realistic video series of presentations that were utterly AI created, that she never actually did. And she's literally moving through space and interacting with people and scenes based on what the AI had done, taking those few frames, a couple of seconds basically of her, and extrapolating that into a real character and putting that character in situations. I don't think it takes a genius to say that bad actors can take almost anybody now, let alone people who have tons of online presence. I mean, this is just literally, if they can find a couple of seconds of you, they can make a realistic avatar and put it in realistic situations and have it do anything they decide. That's kind of it's a scary proposition in things where there is actually legal and social and moral reputations on the line. So I think we're all looking at this very carefully, trying to figure out how are governments, how is just the social fabric of the world going to deal with this new capability. It has a lot of potential for abuse and maybe a lot of potential for good. It's hard to tell right now, but boy, it seems to be developing so fast that nobody can really get their arms around where it's going to go. So we're all looking at it and going, wow, somebody better start dealing with this pretty quickly because it's pretty scary, at least in my mind. Next question.
This is a QR code question from Chris Gekas in Chicago. I am planning to record drone footage of a prairie burn. I would like to get some great footage, but don't want my drone to get damaged. How would you go about planning?
Ronnie Hofsoy is going to start us with this. Ronnie?
Yeah, so it sounds cool and dangerous and maybe even illegal if not all things are in place. I would first start to check out if you are actually allowed to do this because of the dangers that you will add to this scene if it's not under control. Another thing to be aware of, don't fly into the smoke. I guess these smokes are as heavy as we have in Norway when we do these controlled fires of areas that needs to be burnt down. And so stay upwind, so behind the wind, so that you can have a clear view all the way into the scene you are filming. Also make sure that you are not flying too low. There's a lot of dust blowing up from these fires, and dust can get into the motors and make you an unhappy owner of a destroyed drone. And of course, all the smoke can also, all the particles from the smoke will also add up into the drones after some time. I don't think 20 minutes is enough to have a fatal crash. But also be aware that it's not easy to get into these areas and save the drone if it has to do an emergency landing. So I think staying upwind and not far away from where you yourself are, and make sure that you have an exit if the fires or the wind turns another direction.
Jeffrey Powers.
Yeah, the first place that you want to go to is the person that's doing the controlled burn. You want to talk to them. You want to see what their plan is, how they're going to do the controlled burn, and if they have any drones that are coming through to help with the controlled burn. Because this is the biggest problem, especially with uncontrolled fires, is everybody wants to try and be the viral reporter, and then they'll get their cameras and they'll get their drones and they'll get in the way of actual firefighting drones, and that becomes a big problem. Your drone, if it loses response, you want to have a drone that actually will stay where it is if it loses connection. But if it loses response and goes crashing down, you could create an uncontrolled burn. And we definitely don't want that to happen. So talk with the person that's doing the controlled burn, see how they're doing it. And as Ronnie said, watch the weather reports and stay on the outer rim of everything, something where you can see the drone as it's being recorded. Don't get too fancy. Don't try and fly into the fire. Stay around the outer edges, and you should be fine.
Courtney Gooden.
Remember, the propellers are plastic and heat melts plastic. Another couple of ideas is don't launch your drone from an area that is within the controlled burn area, because if you hit return to home and that position that you launched it from is on fire now, you don't want it to, you lose contact with the drone, radio signal with the drone. It's going to come back to the return to home spot, and it could land itself right in the middle of the fire. So make sure you're outside the burn area when you launch the thing, and set your return to home for an area that will never be burned. The other thing is always talk to the fire department that is controlling. Usually there are fire assets there to make sure that the controlled burn doesn't become an uncontrolled burn and escape its perimeter. And a lot of times they'll have aerial assets in the area. And if it's anything like California or Los Angeles, if there are any aerial assets in the air for fighting fires, drones are strictly forbidden. You cannot take off in that area because they will have to land all the aerial assets, all the fire extinguishing helicopters and Boree bombers and all that stuff that are designed to put out an uncontrolled burn. So make sure you clear it ahead of time with any fire department or anybody who's going to have any type of helicopters or fixed wing aircraft or any type of, aerial firefighting equipment in the area, because they will not let you launch that drone.
I'm going to support what Courtney just said. I've actually been in this situation a little bit. I've done a lot of voiceover work for the Bureau of Land Management and their wildland firefighter organization, and I got to tell you, it is getting very touchy out there. I think probably some of you heard that during the Los Angeles fires, some idiot with a drone launched and it was up in the airspace. So they had to literally shut down the entire firefighting operation because of that. I think at some point, some knucklehead is doing something like that, is going to actually get charged for the amount of resources that were burned up because they had to suppress the fire suppression operation because somebody didn't know the rules. And people have reflected that. And Danny Grizzle in the chat said, I've worked extensively with the U.S. Forest Service, and they're very touchy about drones, especially if they have aircraft operating in the area. This is exactly what I have heard from everybody in every organization that has aircraft fighting fires. It is really a big deal. And I think at some point, someone, and gosh, we hope it's not you or anyone who watches this show, who's piloting a drone and having a great time getting great aerial footage, they're going to find themselves with a multi-million-dollar bill because the fire was not able to be suppressed and it got to houses or something like that. And boy, the lawyers are going to descend like locusts on a situation like that. So just be super, super careful, Chris. If you want to do this kind of work, get certified, get a license, get all the rest of the things so that you have some defense against a misuse of a drone in an emergency situation made the problem worse. That's a massive liability problem waiting to happen. Anyway, next question.
Douglas Carmichael asks, B&H now has the ATEM Mini Extreme ISO G2 in stock. Has anyone been able to purchase it?
Alexander Knight, do you know something about this?
I have not. I would love to get one, but it is a very, very new product, and I think we probably need to talk to our friends at Blackmagic to see, hey, Grant, if you're listening, if you want to send one over to test, we would be happy to do that.
And who would you suggest they target for said demo unit? I see panelist hands going up left and right. So anyway, Douglas, thanks for the question. Guy, did you want to dive in on this?
Yeah, I don't think that this one's shipping yet. I just checked B&H's site and it says still pre-order, and I went to say notify me when it's in stock, and it's like you've already got that setting on. So it never sent me a notification saying that it was in stock. And I run a Facebook group with 60,000 ATEM users, and nobody has received it because they would all be showing pictures that they got theirs, and nobody's saying anything.
Yeah, they'd have unboxing videos.
Yeah, I've searched all the retailers. Everybody still says that it's awaiting, more on the way and all that. So I can't find anybody. If you can put in the chat or on whatever your socials are and at me that you've seen somebody that's got one, let me know. I'd love to see it.
Okay.
Oh, and
Next.
one more thing. The only thing
Yeah.
I did find is in the Blackmagic forums that they said that they were at a trade show recently in the last month, and that they pulled it out of the Blackmagic employee pulled it out of retail packaging. So he said, when you see it in retail packaging like this, that means it's really close. And that was dated August 28th. So they are super close. They just haven't landed. And typically these things have to come from Singapore. So they get shipped on a boat. So if they're super important, they air them in. But I think these are on a boat. So they're probably just on the way to retailers, but we haven't seen any action yet.
Yeah, some of those big shipping websites track all the shipping container ships coming, so maybe you can identify the right one and know when it's going to land, probably where? Los Angeles? No, Long Beach, maybe. Whatever it's coming in, and you can go to that extreme. Anyway, next question.
Next question is coming in from Tony Mobley in Noonan, Georgia. Conversations with Tony Mobley runs with MimoLive. When I add SPX graphics, QR code drops video to 720. Any idea why?
Alexander Knight's going to help you out. Alexander?
That doesn't make any sense because the graphics layer has really nothing to do with zoom. Now, if you're saying that the Zoom video from the participants, the resolution is dropping, that might be because of something else that's joining the meeting. But as far as I know, I thought that was resolved. It used to be that if you joined a meeting with an iPhone, it would drop everybody to 720p. But I seem to remember someone saying that that is not a thing anymore. Maybe it was Andy Carlucci. I'm not 100% certain. I could be totally wrong. I'd have to test it. But Tony, maybe we can talk offline and work through this because what you're describing there, I've never, ever seen that happen with MimoLive.
I was just trying to set up. I got to target this because I wanted to throw up the QR code. If you have questions that you'd like to get into the show, the QR code I just tossed on the screen is the easiest way to get them in there. You can just literally scan that with your phone or type in askofficehours.global. That is kind of the direct link, askofficehours.global, that gets you into this kind of instant ask a question system. The folks in the back end will take a look at it, make sure it's formed correctly and simple and one question per entry. But if you do follow those rules, it not only gets into the show very quickly, but it also persists, which means that question will come back tomorrow when we reload things that we didn't have set up before. And I don't normally do this, but rather than going to the next question, Jeffrey Powers raised his hand a little bit late on that Tony Mobley question from before, so I'm going to go ahead and let him answer. Jeffrey?
So with SPX, I think that SPX goes broadcast at 720. So it's like if you have a Zoom call and I come in on a camera in 720, you're going to get 720. So it's the lowest denominator on that. So you might want to check the settings of SPX and make sure that it's running at 1080p. So you have that 1080 screen that comes through.
Alexander, you want to get back in?
Yeah, people in the chat were talking about this. I had no idea SPX Graphics was a Zoom app. I completely forgot about that. So yes, definitely like what Jeffrey is saying, check the settings. It seems pretty odd that it would only run at 720. I don't understand why you're using that, Tony, because there are all sorts of ways to get graphics into MimoLive that are far more customizable than using that built-in thing in the Zoom app. So I'll send you a message on Discord and we can talk about it offline.
There you go. Next question.
Danny Grizzle in Longview, Texas is asking, on macOS, has anyone ever experienced an issue where lots of external media is corrupting? I'm currently experiencing multiple drives failing, both SSD and HDD. The drives are not visible in disk utility. You're muted, Bill.
Oh, I'm sorry. That sounds a little sus. Ronnie Hopsway, can you help Danny out?
So there could be a number of reasons. It seems that you are directly connected to these devices and you have several devices, which makes me think there is maybe a hub or some intermediate hardware between your computer and the devices themselves. First thing I would test is to just add them directly. So just disconnect them from the hub and add them directly to your machine and see if that is fixing anything. Another thing you should be aware of, that even if this doesn't see them, you always have to check system information and see if the devices themselves are hardware visible to the bus, and you do that by opening the system information and dig a little bit there and see if you see those interfaces. Of course, if you haven't tested connecting them to another machine, that's a good idea. And I also wonder if you have upgraded something in the latest days or weeks, and if that is something that can prevent this from happening. Another thing you can test is to boot up your machine in safe mode and see if the devices work then. If that is the case, there is probably a third-party driver of some type that are interfering with the connection or the transport. And of course, there is always the last thing, and that is that something is gone really, really wrong with the disk, and you need to take take back your backup and see if you can restore from backups. Always have backups of important data. That is my last thing to say to you.
Alexander Knight.
Yeah, I don't know what the total quantity of media that's failing that you have, but it's pretty unlikely that they're all going to fail at once like this. There's something definitely, like Ronnie is saying, needs to be investigated on that system. Another thing that you can do if you don't have it, I would highly recommend using Steve Gibson's SpinRite software. Now, this is like a bootable. You can put it on a USB bootable drive, but you typically would have to have a Windows PC. But it does work with SSD drives and HD drives. He added SSD support to version 6.1. It's very inexpensive, and it is a good tool for scanning drives to check on the health of the drive, and also even just preventative maintenance. Even using it, running it in one of the maintenance modes on a drive that is brand new actually can really help. You can use something like VirtualBox and install a free copy of Windows from the Insider website from Microsoft, and you can run it there inside a VirtualBox to scan those drives. Probably worthwhile doing.
Didn't Danny know he was on macOS though? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying a virtual machine though. If you use VirtualBox and install Windows in a virtual environment. Yeah.
Courtney Gooden?
Yeah, and you didn't say, Danny, what type of interface you're using for these external drives. Is it Thunderbolt? Is it USB 3? Is it? I suspect it could be a cable or a connector on your Mac. If it's you're going into a Thunderbolt connector, sometimes if it's a USB-C, try turning it over. Try turning the cable over, because sometimes one side of the USB-C connector can become bent or corrupted or dirty. And then it can cause interruptions of the data, false data going across. And so it can corrupt the drive. That data stream gets corrupted if it's a noisy connection. So check your cables, change your cables if you can change the cables if they're not captive in the hard drive the external hard drive interface. Try changing the cables, or try changing the port that you're using to connect the external drives to. And like I say, try flipping the USB-C connector over, because sometimes that can help.
I don't know why this reminds me of it, but one of the weirdest problems I ever had I didn't fix it. Friends of mine who were helping me fixed it. But I think we were talking about a machine that was doing things like this. And it turned out, after all was said and done, that the machine had gotten jolted, and one of the microprocessor had managed to slip out of its little seat and was making intermittent connections. I mean, that was messing up everything, but in a random way, because it was partially connecting and partially not connecting. I'm not saying that's the same kind of thing that's happening here, but it's just weird that it's happening across partitions and drives and things like that. So it's maybe one of those weird hardware problems that's tough to diagnose. If you figure out what it is, Danny, please come back and let us know so we can be aware of that for the future. Let's go to our next question.
Next question is coming in from Kenny Hampton in Greenville, Illinois. In a classroom AV setup, connecting a MacBook to HDMI sends audio fine to the room audio, but local Mac volume control is disabled. On Windows, I can adjust volume locally over HDMI. Any fix for restoring Mac volume control for HDMI in a classroom setting?
Alexander Knight?
As much as I love Apple, there are certain areas that are incredibly frustrating, and this is one of the areas where Windows is just flat out better for independent volume control. For example, like on Windows, for a long time now, you've had a sound mixer where you can individually turn up and down the volume of individual applications. Now, you can probably solve this with a third-party utility. Rogue Amoeba makes I'll just show you here. Rogue Amoeba makes this app called Sound Source. You may want to download the free trial, and this does exactly that. This does what Windows already does, which is built in, and this gives you independent volume control where you can, where you actually turn up and down and also mute sources here. You've got individual control there. So you can see that in the screenshot. So I don't think sound source is very expensive. If I click purchase, how much is that? $45 USD. So install the trial, see if that fixes your problem. And if it does, there you go. It's only $45.
Next question.
Roscoe Jones in Madison, Indiana. Any thoughts on high school sports using Shoo Goo to keep USB or HDMI cables connected? It is like a gummy silicone and does not melt in heat, but does take a day to totally cure.
I love me some Shoo Goo. I often have my tennis shoes that I've got a few pairs, and the heels sometimes separate after if I've been walking on them a long, long time, and I've had them in the heat and dry. And so I usually have a big bottle of Shoo Goo around somewhere. I've never used them on electronics, though. Guy Cochran, what do you think?
Sounds like a horrible idea. I mean, I would be livid if somebody put Shoo Goo on my cables. So generally, you're looking for some kind of relief. So if you're going into a rack, sometimes we'll just loop a cable around the handle before it goes to a junction box, which is like a convenience panel to where that is now secured. And if somebody trips over it or tugs it, which they shouldn't because it'll be taped down once it hits the ground. So I would say that there's better practices, just tape and loops rather than trying to do this. On the camera side, it depends now if you have some kind of device like I can't remember the name of them, but I used to buy these for our tethered cameras. There's a manufacturer that makes these like little holders that basically allow you to rest the cable so it doesn't just pull right out. And then there's cages, like Small Rig makes some cages with HDMI clamps. So it depends on what you're doing and what the connector is. Like BNC is not going to go anywhere, but Shoo Goo, just no-go in my book.
Courtney Gooden?
Shoo Goo iPad. Yes, I used to have that. As far as adhesives go, there are faster setting flexible adhesives. I advise against, like Guy was saying, I wouldn't put adhesive because if you just get one little, all of those silicone adhesives are also great insulators. So if you get anything into any of the connectors at all, it will ruin the connector instantly. So yeah, I'd probably stay away from that. I use this, if I do need an adhesive that says faster drying, I use this E6000 craft adhesive, and it stays a little bit flexible, but it dries quite fast. So, in an hour or so, you can have a solid connection. Yeah, but I don't use that on holding cables into computers. What I do is if there are any screws that are anchoring that HDMI connector to the case or to wherever you're connecting it to, a lot of times what I will do is I'll take a piece of copper wire and I'll wrap it around the wire at the base of the HDMI connector, and then I'll run it over and loosen the screws that are holding that connector in, then wrap the wire around that screw and then tighten the screw back in so that wire loop forms a little harness that holds that connector in to the outlet. And that works really well, and you can always undo it easily and not have goo all over your shoe.
Jeffrey Powers.
Yeah, I knew somebody that actually used a hot glue gun to connect up their USB and their HDMIs, and I asked him why. I go, well, if we try to use something else, then as Courtney said, if it ever got in, then the connections would be a problem. But they could then take a heat gun and actually melt that all down. I still don't believe in that. And the same thing with on the reverse, if you're using some sort of electrical grease to hold on the connection, you're not supposed to do that because that can ruin your cables and ruin your devices as well. What I do is simple, just a piece of gaff tape. What Guy says as well, because with the clamps, those are perfect. But if you don't have that, a piece of gaff tape will most likely keep those cables in. And if you're really concerned, find a way to route it around so the cables just don't have a chance to get pulled.
Ronnie Hofsoy.
Yeah, and if you're running your equipment in heat that is actually melting the Shoo Goo, you should probably think about your stands.
Buy an AC, is that what you're telling us, Ronnie?
Yeah, and the other thing I would say is it's not about the plug. It's mostly about the problem is that the cable restraint are not good enough. So if someone or something happens to tighten the cable, something goes wrong and the plug ejects. So what we tend to do is, of course, as Mickey and Jeffrey also said, use a hot glue gun. That is a good idea. The other one is, of course, to use strips to strip the cable down to the plane that this equipment is sitting, if it's in a rack or whatever. And the third option is, of course, using something like 3M dual lock to safely secure the cables in place and make sure it's a little security loop inside of it before it goes into the equipment. And so just have good cable restraints a little bit away from the equipment, and the plug should never eject from the equipment.
I'm just going to say, in this world of all sorts of molded, glued shoes, because most running shoes are glued, I always keep a bottle of Shoe Fix glue around, and I can't tell you how often I use it. So now you are tempting me to pull this out the next time I have an electronic repair and see what happens. Although I may not actually do that. Oh, Courtney, you wanted to get back in on this?
Yeah, I was just going to give you a little tip that I've discovered about Velcro. The hard Velcro, like the dual lock that Ronnie was talking about, which uses the little stiff polyethylene mushroom-shaped things on a post, if you put that on, it has really good adhesive on it. And then you wrap some old school loop type Velcro, the old flexible type loops, hooks and loops, the loop side, you put that around the cable. You push that loop side Velcro around the cable into a strip of the dual lock, and it will never come out. It grabs the little mushroom things grab that loops, and it does not let go. It does a great strain relief. You don't have to worry about it coming loose, and it keeps it a little bit flexible. It'll move around a little bit. It's not as rigid as the dual lock. But man, you really have to yank on that thing to get it out of there.
Today was the birth of Velcro belt and suspenders conceptions.
Streams.
Yes. Like,
Don't
let's go for the safety. Next question.
Next question's coming in from Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas. Premiere on iPhone, how does it rate among phone-based editing apps like CapCut, LumaFusion, InShot, iMovie, KineMaster, etc.?
And we're going to start off with Jeffrey Powers. Jeffrey?
So for some of you that know, I had a whirlwind weekend in Dublin, Ireland to go to the NFL game, which was awesome. But they released just after I got back, and so I did some videos, and I was able to use the Premiere app on my iPhone to edit down this while I was on the plane. So working like CapCut or anything like, it does exactly the same thing. So you can scrub through the timeline. You can do all the splits and the cuts. So you select one of the timelines, and then you've got a range of different options on the bottom, from cuts to transitions to everything like that. As you can see, I have 3 layers going right here. So I have my video where I was talking in front of the beach on low tide, and then of course some of the B-roll through here. And then I have even the bug on the lower corner for my videos once I publish this out. There are a couple little quirks to that. One of the quirks is that when you add media, it'll add to the main timeline, and then you got to bring it up to the secondary timeline and shorten it out there. There's no batch. You can't select a whole bunch of items and choose to like shorten it or speed it up or anything like that. You got to do them individually. But once you've done the editing, this is supposed to allow you to go to Premiere Pro and actually continue the editing. That's the biggest problem I have yet to find out how to actually do that part, so I can get this out and running. But for quick editing, quick jump cuts and everything like that, get your project started, this is perfect. It matches a lot of what these other programs do, and I've already sent some requests to Adobe to make some fixes on it, so it's only going to get better from here.
Alexander Knight.
I haven't tested all these, but I bought LumaFusion after they came on the show a while back, and I got it on sale. And I have to say that the interface is super slick, and it's ridiculously powerful. I'm pretty adverse to subscriptions. I don't know if Premiere is a subscription because Adobe apps tend to be in general, but I find, at least for me, LumaFusion works incredibly well.
Yeah, this is, I think most of the companies have this kind of thing after they have an NLE that's successful for a while. I know Final Cut has Final Cut for iPad and for iOS, so you can use it on your phone. For the kind of thing that Jeffrey's describing, these tools, I think, can be very useful to you, particularly if you have deadlines or you want to get out first in the marketplace with information. I mean, this is a perfect circumstance. He was flying and was able to get some work done that if he had the last piece in place, which is something they will fix undoubtedly, he could have popped it right into the news feeds and been one of the first out there. So I think all of these solutions are designed to do that. They do not give you all the tools that the main program has. They shouldn't try to do that. They're working on a limited platform. And you typically, particularly if you're working on a phone, it's very hard for me to feel really productive when I don't have a keyboard in front of me and the rest of the tools that I normally have. But for what they are designed to do, it doesn't surprise me that Adobe has done this. And I hope for the people in that ecosystem, it proves to be a very useful tool and they can get a lot of, at least get a jump on the regular editing, which is kind of how I see the last year or two that we've had the version for Final Cut. Jeffrey, you wanted to come back in?
Yeah, really quickly, it is part of the Creative Cloud subscription, and they will be upselling the AI version. So, yeah, I think it's like $7.99 a month or $70 a year, something like that.
That subscription revenue, every company seems to really want that. Hey, thank you for watching today. We appreciate it. We will be here again tomorrow as always. Remember, the rundown is not happening tonight. We just thank you every day. We thank everybody involved in making this show happen, particularly all the questioners, those of you who produce the show by asking your questions for us to answer. We truly appreciate what you do. Without you and your votes on those questions, this show doesn't work. For those of you who are unbelievably generous enough to spend your time on the panel every day, and I am surrounded by smart people who are incredibly generous at the same time, and there's nothing better than having in your Rolodex people exactly like the ones you're looking at now. It is a huge life extender, and I appreciate each and every one of you, and I'm sure the audience does as well. So thank you, panelists, for being here. And to our silent army behind the scenes of those who are working to make this show happen quietly behind the scenes. Thank you all. And we will see you next on the next show, The Electroversal today, 22,000 miles, 35,000 kilometers, 173 million bananas for scale. We'll be back tomorrow doing the same thing. Thanks for watching.
How many banana clips is that?
What is that, Guy?
Should we unbox
Mac
it?
Studio.
Oh, new shiny hardware.
The cloud. The cloud is right here.
Activate the salivary glands.
It's overrated.
It's the new extra hours computer that we'll be using in the cloud. So we'll
And that's an
hook it all up today.
That's an M4 Max processor. Is that what that is?
Yeah.
How much memory is on that thing?
32 gigs.
I bet it smells good.
This is SFX
36
category. We're always going,
36 gigabytes.
The smell when you open a Max.
Oh yeah, I can smell that intoxicating paper smell of that new package.
Jump in after hours, I'll open it up.
Just take a moment and look at the corners of how they folded the papers.